dumps.
You're locked
They
in
call
to
them
the House
dumps.
Sparks
Big,
radio
massive
program,
dumps.
Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. Joining us right now is our dear friend Boston Brian from the Meidas Touch Network and his own videos. He even still does TikTok. I'm trying to talk him down, but we'll work it. We'll get him over to YouTube Reels and Instagram or something like that. We'll pick it up. We just want to make sure his message grows, and that's the important thing. How are you, brother? Welcome.
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I, don't let, I know as a Chicagoan, that the Boston accent, much like the hardcore Chicago accent, makes people a little nervous. You're going to rip a swear word on broadcast radio, but people know that you got a handle on it. All right. So this is it's been a fascinating week for me because one of my nemeses in the media world, beyond the regulars, beyond the absolute outrage, the end times marketing team that is everybody from, Glenn Beck to Alex Jones to Russell Brand to all like that whole Tucker Carlson, all that kind of stuff. The idea is that there's a big them out there, and the big them is working with everybody that ain't you. And that is an enormous myth to have to maintain. When in reality, I think, and this is, I'm curious about this because people, I think probably because you're from Boston, because your accent, they kind of almost expect, like my friends who have a Southern accent, they expect them to be conservative or rough around the edges or
Right.
especially like anti-gay or something like that, that there's just and then when they start talking, they're like, oh yeah, no, okay, no, that's not true at all. Are you finding that you have more surprise camaraderie than you might have thought about these ideas?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I know you fight with TikTok. I watch you every day, so I know you're not hip on the TikTok. But honestly, that's what helped me grow to even be able to talk to you right now. If I didn't have a TikTok, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. So
Understood.
I feel very blessed to have the 200,000 followers that I have on there and to be able to get the message out to people. I use that, but you're right. I think a lot of people, when they first see me, they expect a conservative mindset to come out, or some bigotry, or some anti-Sem, whatever it is, you know what I mean. And then when the liberal stuff comes out, and I just want to help people that are in need, and maybe put a roof over some people's heads that are sleeping on the street, and give everybody some health care because everybody deserves to live a nice full life.
Yeah.
Ridiculous things like that.
I know.
So it's just,
by
I
the
think
way,
that's
shame on you.
Some of the
Shame
allures,
on
I'm
you.
trying to figure out what the hell I'm saying a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has helped. Very much so. It has.
That's good. And I think also there's an inversion, I think, of the expectation of who you're talking to, and there's a bunch of people, I think, in the right wing side of things where they assume that if they're sitting at the right counter with the right Southern accent, and the person next to them sounds like them, or maybe even wear the same sports team shirt as that they can kind of rattle off some bigoted garbage. And that person next to them will go, yeah, I hear you. And when they don't, I think that's the root of a lot of the freak out that you see amongst the maggots. And it's why they have to go to Trump rallies. It's why they have to follow him everywhere. Because if we were truly inundated with people who were as in deep in this maggot kind of mentality, they wouldn't have to travel. They could just have little Trump parties, like they're watching, like the show Lost or Walking Dead or something from home. We have our Trump parties at the house because we don't have to drive all the way to Arizona or go to 90 Trump rallies to feel like we have some sense of camaraderie in the world.
Well, it's amazing to me that people still don't recognize, and I know some people do that. It's not, when Trump's doing these rallies, it's not different people from that area all going to the, they're all happy to see him. It's literally the same groups of people at every rally, and the people that he pays to stand behind him, and the what is it, the fourth row ladies or the second row ladies,
the front row Joes. He literally, the disappointment and excitement that he vacillates between, I have recurring fans. Oh my God, they're all the same people.
And he loves talking about how much they spend to get there. How much they spend to travel, and how much they're spending on, where they're lodging.
He does complain that he doesn't get a piece of it. That's the thing. You could tell he wishes he was he's looking at his plane and going, let's see, I could fly these people here. and charge them and make money on them coming to see my rallies. But then I'd have to let them on my plane, and they'd stink it up worse than it already is. It already smells like fish delight and feet.
I'm sure I could fit one more gold toilet on this plane somehow.
Right, right. So, let's grab and we're we got about 5 minutes and we take a break, and then we got another segment after that. And I want to I want to see what your kind of driving force issues that really motivate you are right now. That you really feel like there's a solution out there that maybe people aren't seeing, or that you want to drive people in their recognition towards a problem, that they may not know how to handle or what have you. Like your main focus when you're talking to your audience, where what's your goal in bringing them to,
My
or what are
main
the
focus
prime issues? Yeah.
is calling out the fascism, the fascistic tactics that are being used. The
Hmm.
repetitive nature of saying lies over and over and over and over again to get people to believe them. I mean,
Hmm.
the way that it's almost everything is fought in the court of public opinion instead of the court of law. So that's what
Hmm.
Trump's doing right now. He's sending out all his
Sure.
henchmen, all his family members, and he's putting them all on the right wing broadcast to go out and spew lies, and Hillary Clinton this and Bill Clinton sucks and
Hmm.
yada yada yada, pointing the direction
The socks case.
besides Trump.
Right.
And it's like a lot of people, and it's tough because if you talk about it too much, people get turned off. People aren't
Hmm.
in tuned every day to the politics as much as we are. They got stuff to worry about in their lives. They're not doing what we do
Right.
here. So you can almost do it too much and turn them off to it, and they just say,
Yeah.
screw it, I don't care about anything. So you gotta have to walk a fine line of, not being
You got to
too
entertain them while you're doing it.
dramatic, but still get their attention and let them realize, like, listen, I know it sounds weird to say that stuff that was happening in World War II is happening now in our country, like as we speak. And
Hmm.
we're not talking about obviously we're not talking about the same exact stuff. What's
Right.
the line? History never repeats, but it rhymes.
Hmm.
So it's not going to be the same exact stuff that you saw, but it's the same tactics. It's the same playbook. It's just being used in 2023, and this is the outcome. I mean, that's just. I mean, my focus is to bring attention to that and let everybody know
Hmm.
that Democrats are not the demons. We're not all just crazy liberals that want to take your guns away. Liberals own weapons too. We
Hmm.
like our Second Amendment. We love the Constitution. We want to live by the Constitution, which is why we want to hold Donald Trump accountable for the crimes that he committed,
Right.
because that's the law that we live by. And
Hmm.
it's crazy when you see a whole political party that claims to be the party of law and rule, just totally throw that in the
Well,
trash.
and I find it particularly fascinating. I'm sure you see this a bunch too. But the idea that their complaint is there's a two-tier justice system, when indeed Donald Trump has benefited from what little two-tier justice system exists in this world, which is that very rich and very connected and politically advantageous clients always will get the best lawyer until you lose them. But then, of course, the best point on the docket, they can almost judge shop all the things that Epstein did. Trump is seemingly almost complaining he can't do now, which is the idea he's always benefited from a two-tier justice system. That the regular schmoes, we have to just deal with what we deal with, and he gets to he gets the benefit of a lot more money, a lot more pushback, and a lot more freedom than other people. Because there was a group of people who were facing espionage charges. Almost like I think everybody who's faced these espionage charges in the past had to surrender their passport. Trump didn't have to, for example. Really simple. Didn't have to surrender his passport. Now, he wouldn't have to give up he wouldn't need his passport to campaign for president. He wouldn't. So the idea that it's election interference if you took it away is a little bit silly. But he certainly is a flight risk. I don't think he ever will, because I think he's deluded enough to stick around. But that idea that he benefits from the double standard.
Well, they're playing off the fact that the left has been talking about a two-tiered justice system for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're now taking that and
Right.
using that against us. When like a lot of the stuff that Republicans do, there's a sliver of truth in there somewhere, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
always a sliver of
Yeah.
truth to get you hooked on, where you can look up something, you can Google something, and it does say that. But what you don't do is read around the edges and read the fourth and fifth and sixth paragraph on the story to figure out actually what's going on. Because a lot of times that's where the information is hidden.
Yes.
You'll get the outrageous headline. The next paragraph is
And
just giving you what's going on, and then the next for
Yeah, the
2
third,
or 3
fifth, or
paragraphs,
seventh,
I wouldn't
depending
tell.
on whether or not you can tell it'll be the third paragraph in a regular written, like New York Times kind of thing. If the pictures in your newspaper are in color, it'll be paragraph 5 or 7, and that's only because they divide the paragraphs into smaller bite-sized pieces because that's what the kind of audience they have. We're gonna take a break, and while we're in the break, tell everybody your Twitter handle real quick.
It's at Meidas Brian 23 or at Boston Brian. So I mean, I still don't know how Twitter works. There's 2 of them. YouTube's the same way. I have 2 names. They search them. You can find
if
me.
you
I'm
search
on
for Boston Brian, you'll pick up both of those and the like.
And
So,
you can find my videos on Meidas Touch as well.
There you go. We'll be back right after this with more of Boston Brian, and then Philip Ittner will be joining us in the top of the next hour. Biden is going to be focusing on the economy in his 2024 campaign, and not the indictments around Trump, which freaks out Republicans. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We were just talking macroeconomics during the break because it's what we do in our free time. And I'm here with Boston Brian. And so, Brian, the Meidas Touch guys are doing great work. They're on it. They're covering a lot of this stuff. And I think they found a magic spot for themselves in all of this craziness in Trump world, because they all have, I think, almost everybody in that family has a legal background. And so with Trump's problems being front and center in all of this, and him, it's almost, again, it's the invention of the axle, not the wheel. If everybody had the wheel and they're rolling stuff around and you're the guy who finally comes around, okay, there's 2 wheels now. What if I connect them? That guy did very well. And so the premise of this is that, like, the timing has been really good for people who want to put some meat on the bone about what's wrong with Republican economic theory, Republican libertarian philosophy, Republican like bootstrap mythology in terms of this whole like going after Obama for when he said you didn't build that, when he's talking about roads and bridges, which is exactly true.
And then he did it in a tan suit.
Right. I'm still horrified. You had to bring it up, didn't you? Now, great. Now I'm seeing spots. The fascinating part for me is that Elon Musk, who's one of their big heroes, who is the new kind of Trump adjacent hero of this group, is both heretical because he's not free speeching them enough to be anti-Semitic all the time, every day or something on Twitter, but also Tesla doesn't exist without the 2008 rescue plan that Obama put in place to guarantee that electric cars got a toehold, and he knew it.
Most of his money comes from government. He wouldn't be able to do what he's doing. There's no way.
There is no situation where Elon Musk is a financial success or an engineering success or any of the mythologies of successes around him without that stimulus package from the Obama administration. And so I think, when Biden doesn't want to meet with him or whatever, and he's like, how dare he? I'm the most important whatever. And you're like, dude, you were a jerk to Obama, and you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for him. Why would I meet with you?
He makes it seem like he's the one down in the basement with the lab coat on, with the wrenches, and the tools, and the computer. Like, come on, he delegates Tesla jobs to people that actually know what they're doing, and then he takes the credit for it.
Exactly. He bought Tesla effectively like as an angel investor on 2 guys that had done it, and then named himself chief engineer of SpaceX after government contracts were done. None of the engineering is his. None of it. Not a touch. Like, and at best he's like, what if we could just get him back? Work on that. And he's spending taxpayer money to do it largely. So the idea that these guys chase around these mythological, ubermenches is I think, maybe that's the hardest thing to shake maggots loose from, and why they think we worship Obama and we worship Biden and we worship anybody that we just appreciate as doing a decent job.
Pure projection, because that's the way they feel about their leaders and their dear Fuhrer that they love so much, because And now they think, well, because I feel this way about Trump or whoever, they must feel the same way about Obama or Biden
Right.
or Clinton or whoever. You know what I mean? So everything they say is pure projection. It's unbelievable. I mean, if you were looking at the Trump family responses, they were going around talking about. I mean, everything they say is what they do. It's unbelievable. You got Laura Trump calling for the total dismantlement of the judicial system in the United States because we're trying to hold Donald Trump accountable for taking classified documents that he admits to having himself. He's on tape. We got pictures. I mean, what else? I don't see what you need. I mean,
but excuse me, Brian, if I may. There's 3 years ago, during the Trump administration, a whistleblower who was paid tens of thousands of dollars, apparently over a period of God knows what kind of time, might have all happened at once. We don't know. Told a story about a guy he knows that talked to a guy who has tapes of. I mean, that guy's.
And what happened?
No one knows where he is, but he's got tapes of Biden taking a bribe to apparently, and if I've stop me if I've screwed this up, and maybe you can help me walk through this. Apparently, this guy bribed Biden to get the prosecutor that wasn't prosecuting him fired and replace him with the prosecutor that did prosecute him. I don't think this guy understands what bribery is for. I think this is more like S&M. I think this guy's it's like those Wall Street guys that go to a dominatrix dungeon just to be punished inside. Like, here's $5 million, prosecute me. I deserve it. I'm making too much money.
Well, it's kind of like your China argument. Okay, if China gives Biden so much money, what are they getting in return? Because Joe Biden, in my opinion, from what I've seen in actual legislation, has done more to decouple the United States from China economically, any way you can think of, than any other president since I started getting involved in politics. I mean,
since before Nixon.
I'd like to know what you think China is receiving in return. What is their benefit? The balloon? That's what Joe Biden, he got millions of dollars and he said, okay, you can fly a balloon for a couple days over the U.S. that we already, made sure that it couldn't work before it reached our shores.
Remember, he got $5 million from this missing
dude. It changes every time I hear it.
Yeah, there's $1 billion from China. Right.
It's like how much the the informant got. It went from $50,000 he was paid to $100,000 to now he's getting.
Now he's a six figure. So he was paid six. He was an informant for multiple years, and then he got paid six figures. So when did that? I think the big question is, when did he get paid the biggest chunk of money? Because I'm gonna guess that it was during the Trump administration where they were paying this find me an informant and pay him, find somebody we'll throw $100K at him, but as an informant, we'll budget it through the FBI. Chris Ray's, my dude now, and
find
we'll throw some money.
11,780 votes, please.
That's right, yeah. We'll give him $1 for every vote that I missed in Georgia. We'll give him $10. We'll give him $110,790. And then, whatever. And then ultimately, they come out last week, Comer and all them are like, okay, we know about Ukraine. We know about China. We know, which we don't, by the way. It's garbage. But we know about Romania, which, whatever, again, a myth they threw around for a while, didn't stick because nobody cares about Romania because that's where, they're prosecuting Andrew Tate right now. So nobody knows how to feel about that. And on the right. And then they go, it's a whole new country you never heard of. This is new. Never even heard this before. Turns out to be Ukraine. Turns out to be the Viktor Shokin firing of the prosecutor, which was the Biden did under the instruction from his boss, the President of the United States, the Congress of the United States, the EU, and the IMF. The IMF, like how Biden was supposed to be withholding $1 billion to get this prosecutor fired. The IMF threatened to withhold $80 billion for the same thing, and it didn't happen. Like they needed the U.S. to go, no, this is cash in the barrel. We're on the big, and if we pull it, the IMF will pull right now. So it'll go from $1 billion to $81 billion tonight, and that's why they shifted.
How many chances do you think Republicans give James Comer? Like, how many times can he come out and stand in front of the camera with not only, verifying his last accusation, but also coming out with another accusation every single press conference? It's like, whoa. You still haven't verified the last. Like, can we go to the first one you said?
Yeah,
like,
we're
what's
4
going on?
countries ago. It's a well, to some degree, since they are now the party of Gish Gallop, I don't know that they ever expected to pan out. And this has been the methodology of the Trump administration. He knows that he's in office because James Comey came up and said there's maybe more there about the Hillary Clinton emails and we should take another look. And he looked at it materially. He saw the polling. He knew he was going to lose. And then that thing gave him a wedge issue that allowed him, as an October surprise, to get the tailwind to win the Electoral College in a couple places, not the popular vote. Still lost by 3 million votes. And so he's been trying to recreate that ever since. And so his underlings, Comer, Jim Jordan, their methodology is to recreate smaller versions of that. We don't need the same thing with the Zelensky phone call. I don't need the investigation to actually result in anything. I just need the stink of an investigation to be on him during the campaign part of it, both to play down the actual charges against me and to cover for, and to, soften support for them. That'll be it. And you see it in the whataboutism all over the place. That's what the goal of whataboutism is. Because again, raising the criminality of a small thing to equaling the big thing does not make it lower the chances that the small thing will happen. It makes the worst thing seem less important. We see this with like sexual harassment versus rape and sexual assault. When the more they are equated, the harder it is to actually go after the rapists and the sexual assaulters. And that's why the Trumps of the world, the Epsteins of the world like that kind of stuff. You have to distinguish between these two things. And again, the lesser of two evils, between a pickpocket and a serial killer. Technically, the pickpocket is the lesser of two evils.
The Republicans right now on that committee, and a bunch of the committees actually, are literally just working for Fox News clips, for clips they can put on Twitter, for anything that will catch that 2 to 3 minute clip that everybody will watch. That they don't read the headlines afterwards. They're not going to go pick up a paper and read the full story. They're going to see Joe Biden gets so much money from so and so or whatever. You know what I mean? So the more times, and again, that tactic inherently goes back to how they used it in history to just repeat lies over and over and over and over again. And eventually it's going to stick with some of the people that don't do their due diligence. You know what I mean? It's just, that's what happens. Whether or not it's a small group in our country, obviously it's a big enough group to cause some trouble. So it's enough that we need to recognize as a problem and recognize the tactics that they use and figure out how we can, combat those tactics, basically.
Yeah. Well, and and again, I do think and we're at the tail end of the show, and I want to remind everybody to follow Boston Brian on Twitter, and if you do TikTok, only do his channel. Only. That's all you're allowed to do. I'll give you special dispensation for one channel. But I think it's abundantly clear that I do think you're right, and that eventually there's a gullibility limit that everybody has. And I don't know if it'll mean that they have to go find some bigger lie elsewhere. That's what the QAnon folks tended to do. Or if they just stop playing the game. They just drop out. The maggots that decided to vote because it was just Trump, only Trump, and just eventually just go, you know what, if it's not going to be him and I don't like him anymore, I don't do it at all. And that's what they saw happen. That's why we have the Senate. And that's what they're afraid of in next year specifically. So thanks, Boston Brian, for being with us. I'm glad you had your inaugural visit.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
Can I just say one thing? If I were to get pulled over for a DUI tonight, I'm not getting out of it by saying Hillary's emails or Bill Clinton's socks. Doesn't matter. Your crime is your crime. Doesn't matter what happened to somebody else.
That's right.
Thank you for having me, Al. I appreciate it. Phil, love your work, buddy.
Excellent. All right. Cheers, Boston Brian. We'll see you later. Everybody follow him, blah, blah, blah. And we'll be back right after this.